The solar rose path begins with conscious creation of compression of internal polarity fields. It is the deliberate gathering of your energy back into its original source point as a unified field. In our current configuration, the inner masculine and feminine polarity currents we all have inside of us exist within a duality field configuration as two separate streams of energy. In duality, these two streams often appear to be at odds with one another. We speak of sacred union with a beloved often on the feminine path, and Mary Magdalene and Yeshua demonstrated this path of hieros gamos. They demonstrated it because each of them actually achieved inner union and mastery before they even met one another. Both trained for many years in the temple ways of these inner alchemical mysteries before they could hold the unified field together of the Christos Sophia flame. Before union with another external person can become a true harmonic union, the inner masculine and feminine currents must meet inside your own field in sovereignty. This is the practicum of the priestess. It's how Magdalene herself was trained to hold this unified energetic as a vessel of Christic light. We are becoming magas, alchemical magicians, as priestesses. In this Mysterium, we're going to explore the potential energetic possible beyond the human experience and learn how to master these energetics as we alchemize them into a higher format. This higher format, an internal unified field, is the foundation for holding a higher level of embodied divinity. The priestess is not a robe or a role or a performance of feminine archetypes, although she may hold these spaces at times. A true solar rose priestess is a field of unified life force, a magnetic force. To understand why we take this work upon ourselves, we need to understand the higher nature of our own internal divinity. Your divine higher essence is not a being of duality. It's an energetic unified force. Your journey as a priestess is to clear your own human vessel, your body, your emotional and mental bodies of energetic templates that are based in duality dynamics so you can merge with this unified force inside your own being and vessel. This is embodied divinity. You're not going to be able to embody this unified essence fully if you can't master and unify your own lower nature into a harmonic oneness that mirrors your higher essence. You are becoming the purified reflection first of your divinity, and then you become the alchemized divinity yourself as a force of energy, as a vibrational frequency of primordial energy. This has been the great mystery present in all mystery schools. How do we alchemically forge two into one? This is at the core of Christic alchemical practice. This was the magic mastery of those who chose to walk the path of the Christ Logos flame embodied within the flesh. In our feminine Christ pathway, we'll be learning about this alchemical inner union using the external lens of our relationships with the opposite polarity as mirrors. This is the feminine path of mastery because the feminine is deeply relational, and she feels deeply as the emotional current that lives in her body. The feminine path is to embody the flame of the Christ light into her vessel. This requires practices and perspectives that are advanced, and it takes dedication to achieve this inner compression as an alchemical union of your inner feminine and masculine current. This is the focus of our work here, the core of the Mysterium. What we will come to understand is that our internal polarity field is not stable. And because of internal distortion, meaning a non-unified energetic within that's living within our own polarity field, we can't create a cradle for sustained energy. As a result of this inner imbalance in polarity, we're unknowingly leaking our energy outside of us. We're seeking some external source to fulfill us and to feed from. This is most commonly seen in the feminine as the longing for other as beloved, as some form of codependency. But it can appear in the feminine field in different formats of leakage, which we'll be exploring thoroughly throughout this course. What causes this internal polarity field to wobble and collapse is this energetic leakage. It can't contain itself. Just like a bowl is holding water, if there's a hole or a crack in the bowl, the water's leaking out and it can't contain the water fully. Most feminine energy leakage is happening unconsciously. It happens when your body's energy architecture hasn't been taught how to contain eros as sexual energy, as love, nurturing, and life force in a way that cycles inward first. These leakages become invitations for drainage, loss of personal power, and relational codependency distortions. It can draw us to extremely challenging polarity purification initiations that can appear in our lives as relational dynamics of all kinds. The leakage can live inside and take the form of common distortions such as savior patterns, misleading seduction signaling, or a mothering as overgiving to others at the expense and depletion of yourself. On the solar rose priestess path, these polarity initiations begin to clear the field. These mirrors will appear in your external reality to draw the leakages into your present awareness for resolution and sealing. In our priestess training, these leakage points are not to be met with any sort of self-judgment, but with your own skillful awareness as you are neutralizing them, and a deep practice of womb-heart axis sealing, which we'll be learning as we go. This gradually brings a new state of containment that creates a still flame within that is steady. This inner access of your being resides where nothing is chasing, seeking, or calling outward. There's no more fixing, over-responsibility, or leaking into others' fields as an enabling, over-giving force. All these outward extending postures are you leaning away from yourself. They're you thinning yourself and your own energetic sheath. Feminine mastery learns how to gather her inner power and release and share only when the conditions are correct for an alchemical exchange. Developing this discernment is going to be a really large part of this process, because often we open our fields in ways that are deeply and personally detrimental. The idea that these depletion patterns are somehow life-affirming feminine offerings, even though they're draining to you personally, comes from ages of training for the false feminine archetypes. They're calling the feminine into scarcity, leakage, and weakness as she drains herself as a martyr for others' needs, helplessness, and suffering. This excruciating and self-sacrificing level of compassion is actually a distortion of life force and an act of self-destruction. Rather than setting her field to receptivity, which is what powers true abundance and endless regenerative capacity and magnetism, she is depleted and drawn down, never reaching her power maximum to become the radiant solar presence that transforms all it encounters. In this false format, the feminine becomes a housemaid, a helper, a servant of others, sacrificing herself on the altar of overgiving in an enabling and mutually disempowering format. She doesn't trust that others are strong enough to find their way, and she tries to avert or neutralize the challenges and lessons that their soul requires for its journey as an act of safety and protection. It's actually a disempowerment. It's her own inability to initiate, accept, or integrate her own internal challenges, so she focuses outwards. And it's a need to be needed from a state of codependent enabling that actually creates weakness, not strength, as sovereignty. The hovering mother that overprotects is a feminine distortion. It cripples the one she protects with fear and lack of belief in the strength and provision of self. The distorted feminine forms an identity and an image from these ancient archetypes, and she may appear as a gentle, valiant savior but this is not a true feminine as a divine archetype because it's in a format of depletion of energy, which creates codependency and scarcity and can't become infinitely regenerative according to the true magnetic infolding vortex as feminine blueprint and design. When we are seeing these archetypes of the loving, nurturing, saintly mother or the compassionate savior in the higher goddess realms like a Mother Mary or a Kuan Yin, we are attempting to emulate this archetype without realizing these feminine energy fields are in mastery and are holding their own field in a correct vortex of power. They're not in a state of leakage. That's why they can radiate with such intensity of compassion. They are an unending fountain of divine energy. Their own fields are so solar oriented with power, they can radiate like feminine suns of compassion and grace. Uninitiated women may attempt to reproduce this martyr or sacrificial lamb as a savior-ess, and it's actually wearing herself down into a loss of power. She doesn't understand that her outward expression is not radiating from infinite mastery, but it's a hidden form of unworthiness and a need to be validated in her own being. She's not aware of the trauma patterns that cause this over-concern with others' welfare to the exclusion of her own, which is rooted in hidden control strategies for safety and self-effacement. In many ages, the compulsive ache of feminine longing was a need for completion by other, and a need for validation of her very existence and being. This draws the energy outwards so it can find this sense of secure position which allows control over others who need her. This is survival programming. We are training in these alchemical arts so this ancient outward ache as leak dissolves. In energetic containment, the nervous system settles and your field stops attracting polarity contrast flames or codependent energy vampires that are meant only to burn away illusion. They're not meant to become permanent feeders of your life force. When in this configuration, what we call love will always appear as a contractual agreement of performance and obligation, rather than a flow of natural giving and receiving energetics that's actually enlivening and builds upon itself. We can only form relationships that drain and destabilize when our own inner flame and container is not stabilized. This is the beginning of your internal polarity stabilization, the sacred compression that allows the solar rose to bloom from the inside out. The feminine's capacity to hold her own current determines the depth of her eventual union with Source, and if she chooses, with a mutually sovereign beloved. In this Mysterium, training for feminine mastery, we are introducing the concept that illuminates the principles of polarity compression, the gradual internalization of the masculine-feminine dynamic into one coherent current within. The path of the solar rose begins in the quiet ground of your own body, not in seeking, not in reaching, but in turning inwards to feel the pulse of your own current. We explore the common leaks in the feminine field, over-merging, rescuing, over-nurturing, eros projection, and subtle energetic seduction, and how each opens the field to depletion. For too long, the feminine current has leaked through the ache of completion, through the habit of over-merging with the other, through the endless tending of others' wounds or needs before her own. Every leak is a crack in your vessel. Every crack weakens the magnetic floor that is one day going to hold the full current of your divine self. By sealing these points, the feminine creates the internal magnetic pressure necessary for the alchemy of inner union. Containment of our energy and life force is not withholding love or nurturing, but it's a reclamation of power. Every leak sealed becomes a reserve of created life force for the path ahead as the vessel is formed to become the temple of your fully embodied divinity. The feminine's first task on this spiral is containment, not as withdrawal or as withholding, but as the holy art of keeping what is yours inside of you until it is ripe to offer. Polarity compression is the alchemy that happens when your inner feminine and inner masculine no longer seek each other outside of you through external mirrors of contrast or external beloved, but turn toward each other inside your own body. It's the feeling and embodying of your own inner sacred couple. The ache begins to fold inward. The projections begin to dissolve. The longing becomes a steady warmth inside your own chest. You begin to become whole within yourself. In this place, containment is not loneliness. It's not lack. It's the gathering of your own current, holding it like a coiled spring, building magnetic pressure until it's strong enough to transform you from the inside out. This is the first law of the solar rose path. Seal what is yours, so what is yours can grow without depletion.